So it is like 1 a.m. right now. I edited all through this podcast and everything. Just a warning, the audio is slightly messed up. I don't know what happens with the recordings and everything. Somewhere the speed syncing got really messed up. And like in some areas it's perfectly fine, but in other areas it's like 3 seconds off. I did my best to try to fix it and move things around. So if you notice that it maybe sounds like one of us speaks too early, that's why. This has been a very annoying time editing this podcast. I did my best. So, yeah, that's my little thing before you start this episode. Hopefully you enjoy. It's a great episode, great podcast, great talk. There's just a few times maybe it'll sound like someone talked a couple seconds earlier. You might hear someone laugh early. That's really it. Other than that, 98% of the podcast I think still goes fine. All right. Welcome back to the Hypervision podcast. If you tuned in from last episode of Noah's Creativity, welcome back. It's going to be a little different this time. We got a guest finally. First guest of season 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is my good friend, Andrew.
Hey.
Not to underplay anything me and Noah have done for this podcast, because, technically it is our podcast, but this guy right here is mostly the reason that we have a podcast. A lot of the inspiration came from his.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. But enough about him. We also have my better half. I don't know if I pointed the right way there or not. When I edit this, we'll see. My better half.
You guys are matching too, so it fits. It makes sense.
Buy the merch that I started working on merch today. So anyone that was getting on me about that lately, shut up. Anyway, Noah, how are we?
We're good, man. We are we're getting through. That's about all I can say right now. We're getting through.
We got a couple more months of that season.
Yeah, and then we can kind of calm down a bit. So,
yeah, I think this is our first time filming in the daylight, like when the sun's out and not even close to setting.
I was about to mention that because it looks very different from watching the past episodes to now.
Yeah, I quite like it. Got a lot of sunshine, Yeah,
don't get used to it.
Yeah,
you don't have that kind of time.
No, I agree. Yeah. So.
Well, before we get into the podcast, we've got our sponsors. That's what it is. Legacy, or Cornhole Legacy, how I would always prefer to say it. Although he's being nice to me lately and working with me on some boards. So Legacy Cornhole, shout out to them. I have their link in the descriptions now of YouTube and everything. So go look at them. And big shout out, Noah. What's the big news we got recently over here at the Hypervision podcast?
What, the Fast Pass?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Alex Kaiser, the one, the only, he was on season 1. We actually went, that was one of our deeper conversations. We kind of went deep with him. We kind of talked about some life stuff. But no, he bought the Fast Pass, and he will be on the podcast. Yep. We're gonna have him filming next week, so here pretty soon you'll see him on the pod again. So we do appreciate it. So
yeah, it's first ever purchase. I plan on making a post for it. Honestly, I really think it'd be funny to make a Fast Pass thing and put his face on it with that picture.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. We need to make it special. He's our first Fast Pass buyer. So,
and we honored it. The moment he did that, I immediately put him on the next available one to film.
Yeah. So thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
Now we gotta find a topic.
That's all the formalities I think we got. So, like we said, Andrew's our guest today. Why is he here?
Why am I here?
I don't know. No. So I think you've probably heard me a few times talk about it. Andrew spent 3-ish months in Europe, quit his job.
Yep.
And just kind of, sleazed around Europe. Not really.
So that's one way to put it,
So yeah, I'm not going to ask a ton of questions, I guess, to start. We'll just pick it up as we go along. I don't know. I guess walk us through the beginning of it. What started it?
Man, well, first I just want to say thanks for letting me on here. I feel like there's a lot of hype from first season. I feel like my name was dropped 5 times of he's going to be on, and then I ended up staying in Europe and never getting to actually call in from Europe. So it's been a long time coming. But And I guess to describe why, started looking for a new job, and then I realized, I had this dream of backpacking a country, and I was like, why not now? So I got on that day, found a ticket to Paris for like $300, and I bought it. It was like a month from then, and I was like, all right, got a month to figure everything out, and then I did it. So kind of crazy. Then time passed, and now I'm back.
You just summed up a whole 4-month trip in one sentence.
Yeah, well, I'm expecting questions. That's what I'm hoping. I'm bad at explaining things unless I have some questions.
Right.
So,
I don't think I have any questions for you.
No, I have none.
Podcast done.
I have none. You just went to Europe, but it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Europe.
Yeah.
This is just a quick 5-minute. Hey, let's go into Europe.
I went to 20 countries, and that's all you need to know.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So let's. Which countries suck? I'm just kidding. No. Can you tell us like the order of the countries? You don't have to go into details. Let's just hear. Where you went.
I can do like a mental map. I flew into France, then I went up to Luxembourg, of all places, which is like a tiny little country. Went over to Belgium, then went up to Netherlands, then went to Denmark, and from Denmark I flew down to Switzerland for a week. From Switzerland I went to Germany, the south side of it, then into Czech Republic, and then I flew to Ireland for St. Paddy's Day. Then I flew back to that eastern middle part of Europe to Austria, then went to Hungary. Then I believe from Hungary I went to Italy, and Italy, also Vatican City, which kind of counts as its own country in a weird way. Went over to Spain, then Portugal back to the north part of Germany, so like Berlin. And then I flew down to Greece and hit up a few islands there. Then went over to Turkey and visited Istanbul. Then flew to England, went to London, and then ended in Iceland for like a week and then flew back home. So kind of all over the place. Didn't really make sense. I had to like crisscross Europe, but it all worked out. I didn't really have a plan going into it.
That is insane. I couldn't imagine. So did you do all this? Like, do you have a group of people, or is it mostly just by yourself?
No, I was actually by myself, which was a bit of a weird thing for most people, especially like my mom. I was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go," and she's like, "By yourself?" I'm like, "Yeah, we'll see what happens." So I had a backpack. It was like a 40-liter backpack, and that was it. And I think the weird thing as well is I ended up just sleeping on strangers' couches and floors for the most part for free. So I just made friends in each city I went, or used this app called Couchsurfing, which is a good tool and resource, and just made friends with locals and hung out. And so, I was never really lonely. And then there were days I chose to kind of be by myself and get lost in cities and listen to music, and kind of loved both sides of that.
Sure. Huh. It's interesting. So what about like cultures? Like, how does that go? And like food, like how does all that kind of? I've always been intrigued by that kind of stuff.
Like, how does it differ from America?
Yeah, I suppose, but like, how do you like adapt to it? I guess too, and stuff like that.
In terms of the adapting part, I think that's more of just like having an open mind.
Sure.
Because there are a lot of foods that are different. If you kind of go over there with the mentality that you're just going to eat American food or like, everyone's dream food of Italian, right? You're going to get a wild variety and diversity of foods. So you kind of just have to go and be willing to try new things. Also a lot of language, and there it's probably not English, right? And if it is English, it's kind of broken. Or with our younger generation, thankfully, a lot of people do speak English to the point where it's conversational, and I wasn't, doing charades the entire time. Sure. So adapting, I think it's just kind of being open to new things, really, because everything's new in that aspect. In terms of how it's different from America, it is like a Western style culture, so there's not like a blaring difference like it would be in Japan, but there are tons of differences, language being the big one. Food, that spans even from all 20 countries. Like Italy is very different from Spain, which is very different from France. So that's kind of hard to answer in one overall question, but I think, everywhere you went, people are the same as they just want to meet people, have fun, and live a life that they want to live. And that's kind of universal, I think, in my opinion.
Interesting.
No one stole my questions, so I've been sitting here staring at the desk trying to think of one.
Sorry, Drew. My bad.
It's fine. I cut you off enough in the other episodes, so you can do it to me now.
Yeah, get him, Noah.
I try.
See, I have all my stupid questions lined up.
I'm okay with stupid questions.
I don't want to do that too early.
You can intermix them.
Yeah.
I've been back for like a little over a month now, so had some time to.
How many times did you pee in the street?
Quite a few times, to admit, and I will say in Europe they don't have free bathrooms. Like, you can't just walk in anywhere and use a restroom and walk out and no one cares. Like, over there you either have to pay, but even then it's still pretty rare to actually have a public bathroom. Now, it is different from country to country, and some of them do. Like, there was one time in Portugal I snuck into a McDonald's bathroom and I didn't spend anything on McDonald's because I refused to get any American food brands in Europe, but I really needed to use the bathroom, so I snuck in. That being said, there's a lot of times there are not bathrooms, and it is a big part of people's culture over there to just find the pee spots. And you see them because you walk by, or especially in the middle of the night, you walk by, look to your right, and there's like 3 people going at it, and not just males, both male and female, just right on the street, pretty much. And that was a bit of a little shock. And then you get to the point where you really need to go. And, the friend I made was like, just go over there in that alley. And I'm like, that's so weird to me, but okay. And then you get into it. And by the end of it, it was like normal. So quite a few times.
My favorite part of all that was seeing Noah shake his head consistently as you were saying that people just pee wherever they want.
Yeah, there was one time in Paris, I accidentally locked eyes with a girl who was going right there in the street in the middle of the day. Like, it wasn't even nighttime. And I was like, and that was my first stop, was Paris. And it's like, oh boy, okay, so this is new. This is different.
That's insane.
Well, no, let me ask you. I'm literally not trying to put it down. Does that happen in like where you're from, on the more like Amish side of it? Does stuff like that happen where people just kind of, I mean, I know the horses do. I've seen it. They go where they feel like. But like
The horses.
The Amish men, do they just go where they want?
No, not that I know of.
Okay.
I mean,
maybe I was putting it down then. I don't know.
Not that I know.
I'm not going to cut this because what Amish man's going to listen to this?
I wouldn't put it past them, but I've never witnessed it. So
okay.
But have you ever? This is probably a weird like trail to go down. But have you ever like on a hiking trail, just and
oh sure, yeah.
So it's not like crazy different.
Yeah.
It's not.
Are you talking about peeing or pooping?
Peeing.
Okay.
No one poops in the street in Europe, at least as far as I saw.
Hiking trails, though. You said like people on hikes, they just kind of if you need to.
If you're backpacking, that's true.
No, I think what bothers me is it's just like a public place and you're just doing it. I don't know. That's what gets me. But
all right, so for your Europe trip, we'll get away from you peeing.
Yep.
I want to hear both sides. What countries would you want to visit again?
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess there's 3 maybe. Which ones did you not visit that you really want to see? And then which ones you're like, yeah, I could be okay never going back, if there is any.
Okay.
I like it.
I'll start with the ones I didn't get to see. And there are a few that come to mind. Poland is one. And I actually really wanted to go to Poland, and I wanted to go volunteer for the Ukraine situation that was happening and is still happening. But they actually kind of turned me down because they had too many people. So I ended up never going to Poland just because for a lot of situations. But everyone I met from there talked about how beautiful it was and how different the food and the culture and just a lot of diverse things are there that I never got to see. And so that's one I want to go back and actually get and explore. Likewise with Romania and Bulgaria, kind of that whole area right above Greece. There's a lot of smaller countries that just have completely different cultures than that Western Europe. It's more of the East Europe is what a lot of people say, that are just very different. Not as, technologically advanced, maybe, or maybe people just don't speak English there. From what I've been told, obviously there's some people that will speak English, but it's very different from if you're in Amsterdam, you can get away with pretty much speaking English the entire time, but that whole area, maybe not. And so I kind of want to go just that whole region and figure out that for myself. For places I would love to go back to, I would probably all of them. I mean, there's so many different cities that I didn't get to go to. 'Cause what I tried to do on my trip was go to a big city and also a smaller city that not really anyone goes to. For example, I went to like both Porto and Lisbon in Portugal, or both, Barcelona and Valencia and Alicante in Spain. It's not just like the big Barcelona, but, smaller cities that have a lot of culture in them as well. That's not as, not as many cultures are jam packed in that one city, right? But there's still so many other cities out there. Like I didn't get to go to Madrid in Spain, and that's a very big hot spot for a lot of people. But if I had to say which ones I will go back to for sure in my life, probably Italy, Spain, Portugal. Just that whole bottom side of it is beautiful. The food, the culture, people are just fun there. I have so many friends in Germany that I think I'll probably just end up back there one day. They want me to come to Oktoberfest. But that's an expensive ticket just to go to Oktoberfest, but it'd be fun. Denmark, I have a lot of friends in, so I think I'd go back there. And then for sure, Iceland. Ones I on the bottom of the list, probably for going back to. Man, I don't know. I don't know if I could pick one. Honestly, I did enjoy my time in all of them, and made friends and everywhere. And even for places I didn't get to go, the whole upper part of the Scandinavians, like Norway, Finland, Sweden, I want to go back and do this whole nature trip because I didn't get to do that. Go camping, hiking, kayaking through their mountains. It's crazy beautiful and unreal looking. So that's also on there. But yeah, I don't think I could pick one I want to go back to.
Fair.
Yeah.
That was why out of the last part I said it. I was like,
there
easily just might not be one that he was like, yeah, I would never come back.
Yeah.
What about, you said you went to Greece?
Yeah, I loved Greece.
Greece.
It was also the only place I thought I was going to get stabbed, which is funny. The entire trip, I felt really safe. And as a solo traveler, I think that's a big statement. But I'll start by saying this. The islands of Greece are wonderful. If you ever get to go anywhere, go there. They are beautiful. The people and the culture are just so fun. And from my experience, the most actual kind people, there's a lot of kindness, but they're trying to sell you something, or they see an American accent, they're like, you're going to spend money. And so a lot of people just try and be friendly to get you to spend money. But I feel like on those islands, it was just genuine. And that was very neat. But in Athens, and I will say Athens is one of the most beautiful places for history. It has the Acropolis there, which is once the center of the whole world, which is crazy to think about. And there's all these statues and crazy things that are 10 times older than our country, But I was walking around at night, and it was the only time that my gut was like, you need to get out of here. You are going to get stabbed. There's just a bunch of shady people in alleyways, and it was dark, and it felt like I was in a bad area. So, it's a huge city, and everyone's going to have different experiences, but that was the only time I thought I was in danger. So.
Interesting.
Did you have a question with Greece, Noah?
No, I was just curious. I've always wanted to go to Greece, but also
You should. It's
also
awesome.
Spain and Italy and all those. That would be sweet too. I'm curious about food. What was the best thing you ate?
Oh, best food?
Best food. I think it's probably cliche, but Italy it's just good. There's no other way to explain it. And, I went in most of the northern Italy, so all the areas in the North Dolomites and Milan, Florence, and Rome. I mean, the amount of pasta that I tried that I've never seen in my life, the variations and the Like they have rules to how you eat it, and like the kind of pizzas you get and everything. And it was just all delicious. Like I felt like I gained 30 pounds the week I was in Italy, or the week and a half I was in Italy, just because a lot of places I'd cook myself, but Italy, I grew up, and one of my brothers is half Italian, and so we ate a lot of Italian food in my family, and yeah, Italy was good. Italy was top notch. But I mean, Spanish, like on that coast, really good seafood, really cool tapas culture, which is like appetizers essentially that you get sometimes for free if you buy a drink, and they're delicious, and people take siestas and just eat and hang out. I feel like France, I have to say it, their bread, baguettes, or their croissants and whatnot are also just very delicious, and it's very simple. So, I don't know. Food was really good. There was only like one food I didn't like, and that was in Portugal, and it was this weird gelatinous meat sandwich covered in
Blood.
No, that was Ireland. Ireland, I had that. I think it's called. Oh man, black pudding. Black pudding, and it has like pork blood in it. It was mixed with so much things that it tasted pretty good, but if you ate it by itself, it was a bit weird. But the one in Portugal, it was covered in like 5 pounds of cheese and like in this tomato sauce, and it was just gelatinous like meat, and it was pretty weird. Like the only thing I struggled to eat all the way. So, but everything else in Portugal was quite delicious. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
So what?
I had 3 things. Sorry, you go. I've got a lot of things.
Okay. No, I just really. So what? Did you kind of explain like what made you do it? You just kind of was it like kind of like a spur of the moment type of thing, or was it?
The ultimate decision to go, yeah, was a spur of the moment. I guess there was a whole lot of planning. Like when I graduated college, I had the idea of doing something like this. Maybe like a gap year, traveling somewhere, going to Japan or New Zealand. So I knew it was something I always wanted to do. But I ended up, getting a job, and then I created my own kind of brand podcast thing that Drew kind of referenced earlier. And that helped me, get into that creative mindset it's okay just to go places pretty much. And so when I got to that decision of trying to find a new job, and that thought like kind of just bumped into my head of like, well, what if you went to Europe instead for just who knows how long, maybe a month, maybe 2, and didn't have and didn't have a plan. And I was like, I could do it probably. Like I have the money. And so I, like I said, found that ticket and bought it and said I'd figure everything else out. I flew to Paris with a rough idea of countries I for sure wanted to go to, but had no idea of, my route or where I'd end up. I only had one thing planned, and that was this big ski trip with like 57 strangers from all over the world in Switzerland. And I was like in March. So that's like the one solid plan I had going into it.
It's awesome. I feel like that's how you have to do it
Yeah,
sometimes too. Just kind of just go and like whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, you learn a lot, I think.
It's a nice mindset to have.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, you don't really get disappointed. Let's like things truly happen to you. You get to experience things as they are. So, yeah.
So now I have 4 things. 1, I'd like to point out how humble he was to not just shout out his own podcast and all that stuff. I would have done that like that. 2, the only thing I remember of Michael Hinnon, our friend, he was on the relationship advice. The moment Andrew got back, I went out to Kroger with him that night, and I FaceTimed Michael, and I was like, hey, look who's here. Michael looks at the phone and just goes, oh, did you make a croissant? That's the first thing, no hesitation. Just asked him if he made a croissant. 4 months in every country in Europe, practically, and he's only focused on Paris.
My first stop.
That's the mind of Michael, in case you're wondering if he's changed. No.
And if you're wondering, I did not make a croissant, but I ate several. So, sorry, Mike.
And then the other 2 pins I had in my mind were I want to get on Denmark and I lost the other one. Oh no.
Is it your eyes lit up when I said the ski trip? So I don't know if that was it.
No, it was earlier. Shoot. I'll get to it in a minute.
All right.
So Denmark, I want to talk about this with you because I've talked to you a little bit about this before. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if people have ever looked at your Instagram or your TikToks because you filmed the entire thing. You posted day by day.
Yep.
Most of the stuff, you know. But I followed on pretty well for like the first 20, 30 days. And then I went on my own vacation and then I didn't watch them. And then I just never watched again.
That's fair.
But I saw this one, which was when you were in Denmark. And you were just like, you like started the video of like you waking up in some other random girl's house. And she was like, hey, not like that. It was like the whole family, you know?
Yeah, it was her dad's farmhouse.
Right. So they were like, yeah, this random kid from Ohio, you can stay there. That's weird, first off. I wouldn't let some kid from Dayton stay in my place if I'm from Europe. That's no offense. I love Dayton. But like he was just talking about like how happy he was and just like the hospitality and like I don't remember all the words he used, but stuff like that.
I don't remember.
Of just like the trust people have, and I think that's what it was, like the trust people have, and it's just like because they truly just assume humans will do the right thing to them, like humans will live right by them that day or something like that. And then you just walked into town. You were like, I could either, you know, get a car, get a bus, something like that, head into town 10 minutes, you know. You're like, or I could just walk 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then you just like there was like 3 separate videos I felt like, and it was just you walking along this street in Denmark, and it was just like farmland and just sunset, sunrise area. Like you can just see a whole landscape all the time. I was like, as I was watching, I'm sitting there, I'm like, this legitimately is like the most genuine happiness I've ever seen out of Andrew. That like it's been documented at least. It was like, wow, he's really like I knew he was enjoying his time in Europe and everything, but that was like when I was watching those videos, I was like, I'm happy for him. He's doing what he loves.
Yeah. It was in Aalborg, Denmark, one of the most northern major cities of Denmark, which, you know, so it was the smaller one because I also went to Copenhagen, which is like that big city everyone goes to. But yeah, I mean, shout out to Bene. That's the girl's name. I still actually keep in contact with her. Bene. Jenny. And she's still like a really good friend. I actually we FaceTimed last week and just caught up about life. But you know, she goes to show I hung out with her for like 2 days, right? Complete strangers, and now we're like really good friends. Just when you get in that mindset and like let your walls down, like you can develop friendships that last really, really well. But yeah, I mean, she was kind enough to literally be like, yeah, you can stay with me, you know, at my dad's farmhouse. And it's way out of the city. And it was a super cool little area. Like no one's around. And like Drew said, she had to go into work and everyone's just gone in this house. Like it's just me.
She left you breakfast though, right?
Yeah. She even left me breakfast. Like it was like just the kindness of people. And I had met her the day before. And I don't know, you know, it was me and her dog pretty much. And we just hung out and, you know, ate the breakfast. And then eventually, like Drew said, I could have taken this bus, which she was in the farmland. So it was kind of complicated. It was like a bus to a train to get into the city where I was wanting to go. And I ended up missing that bus connection because it was like a 20-minute walk. And so then I was like, you know what? You might as well. I could walk that far. It's like 4 hours later, just walking on this country road pretty much. If nothing is around except these little hills and, you know, every now and then this farmhouse. And, you know, I had music in my ear and I was just like dancing on this street because there's no sidewalk. So I'm literally like in the middle of the street, in the middle of nowhere. And
just hitting the stanky leg.
Pretty much in Denmark, you know, with not a care in the world or know where I needed to be and just walked and reflected. And it was a really good time. And yeah, I don't know. I was pretty happy that day, I think. I mean, I was happy pretty much every day in Europe, you know, just very joyous and relaxed. But that day was cool. And I didn't even think about that until Drew pointed it out. But yeah, so that was really cool. And I ended up it was her birthday weekend too. I ended up going to her birthday party later and that was crazy because they hit nails into stumps while they're drunk with a massive metal hammer, and they go around taking turns, and something could go wrong, but it doesn't, and it's crazy to
At
me.
least it did that time.
Yeah, it's in bars. Like in every bar, they just have a big wooden stump, and you buy nails from the bartender, and you go around, and you take turns hitting the nail in, and whoever gets it in all the way wins. And
what do you win? You're the king of the night.
It's a drinking game, pretty much. You know,
I didn't know
they're
that
at
bar.
bars.
It was like you get $20 or something.
I don't know. It's something in Danish. Who knows? So they also throw cinnamon. They tie you to a street sign and throw cinnamon or something like that if you're not married by 25, and you stay there for like all day. And if you're 30 and you're not married, it's pepper. They throw pepper at you, and you just literally, like, everyone in the city walks by you.
Is this legal?
Dude, I don't know. Because we walked by several street signs with like a bunch of like saran wrap and stuff, and there's just like seasoning all over the floor. And I was like, "What is that?" And she's like, "Oh, you guys don't do that?" And I'm like, "Do what?" Like, no, I've never thrown like paprika or whatever it was, cinnamon, at someone for not being married by 25. She goes, "Oh yeah, it's normal." I guess so.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not going over there for 25. I'm not doing that. Gotta go before you're 25.
Yeah. You know, it happens.
No, that's great. But I figured out the other one in my head while you were talking. It was Ireland. Because you brought it up earlier.
Yes.
I think if you heard him say it, you want to hear about it. What's St. Patrick's Day like in the land of St. Patrick?
Ooh, good question.
It's pretty interesting, and I think it depends on what Irishman you're asking. So I made two really, really good Irish friends, and I ended up making more because of them. And they invited me out to their place on St. Paddy's Day, or just that whole weekend. So I ended up staying there like for 5 days, and it was a blast. But on actual St. Paddy's Day, almost all the Irish people, at least from my experience, that, you know, it's a huge city. They have a big parade, everything. It's like our 4th of July almost. Like everyone's just going nutcakes. However, pretty much everyone in the city, or as they call it in the town, it's all like tourists or American Irish or everyone who comes into the city to party. And all the Irish people like party at their houses and have their own little parades.
It's like LA.
Yeah. And then the day after, a lot of people go into the town, and like that's when the real Irish people kind of go to town, if they are going to go to town. A lot of people, they go to the Dublin, like that's where I was, like twice in their life, maybe 3 times, who knows. Like when they have kids, they'll bring them parade, but you know, if like they're our age wise, they'll go party in the city for, you know, 1 year and the next year not. So it's kind of like almost, you know, I'm hesitant to say it, but like for the Irish guys I met, it's more Irish not to go into Dublin downtown on St. Patrick's Day. However, that being said, we did, because I was with them, and they were like, they call me Andy. They're like, Andy, you need the true experience, so we're going to bring you into town. The city is like on fire. There's, you know, in Europe, a lot of places you can walk around and drink in the city, no problem, open container, wherever you are. And so people are just walking around just hammered, and there's glass bottles shattered all over the floor. Bars are destroyed. Like, and what's funny, there's so many American Irish people everywhere. There's American flags hanging up on St. Paddy's Day in Dublin, Ireland. And they're all like, you bloody, like they call us Yanks pretty much. And like they make fun of us, and it's amazing because they also love us. But
we love somewhere. That's nice.
yeah. It's our like diplomat or whatever is across from their president. So they have like a White House looking building for their president. Across from that is like this massive complex mansion that's as big as the complex for their president, and it's for the American diplomat or public relations guy for Ireland. So like it's just in this compound. So it's Ireland and America, and everyone else is like throughout the city for their embassy and whatnot. So they have some nice setups for Americans there. But yeah, it's a crazy time. I mean, the parade they had was the biggest they've ever had because it's the first one back from COVID. And we watched it on screen as my buddy's grandma was decking me out in all these Irish hats and clothes and pins. And pretty much like they started drinking at 7 a.m. Like the moment you woke up, Like his mom was like, "Here you go, Andy. Here's your morning beer," and I'm like, "Goodness, already." And like the moment I finish one, "Here you go, Andy. Here's another beer," and I'm like, "Dude." And Reese was like, my buddy Reese was like, "Yeah, you don't have to." And his mom's like, "Yeah, you do." And she used some terminology I won't say on the podcast because they love the C word, and we don't really use that. But they use it as an endearing term, and so she's like, "Oh, if you don't drink," and and then she hands me two and says, "Because of that, here's another one." And I'm like, "Goodness!" And this is like probably noon at this point, and their grandma's drinking, and the Irish are crazy, to say the least, and it was a good time, and we ended up taking like a nap in the middle of the day to make sure we were all good for the city, and yeah, it was a crazy time.
All right. Bucket list. Check. Next year.
Yeah, didn't even plan that. I was like, oh, I guess I'll be in Europe for St. Patty's Day. It'd be cool to go to Ireland, and they're like, you should come. I said, okay.
I still will say, I'm very disappointed by the amount of soccer games that you went to watch, which is 0.
In person, yeah, because they were.
I don't care if you watch one. You
so
can watch
expensive,
one,
man.
You can watch one on TV here.
Yeah, but I went to a lot of pubs and watched them with like shoulder to shoulder crowds.
That's another disappointment I have of you.
Why?
Your Irish pub games you went to.
Even though it was Paris, I went to one in Italy, and I watched one in England as well.
Okay, so is that the Arsenal fans?
Yeah. No, I watched the Arsenal one. Oh, I did watch one in Ireland. I watched. A lot of people are Arsenal fans in Dublin, so I went to an Arsenal watch party, and it was like that, and they lost. So a lot of people got mad. So yeah, I guess I went to quite a few like pub watch parties. However, the games that Drew wanted me to go to were like $400 for one ticket.
Okay. The only game I wanted you to go to that was that expensive was the first game you were there.
PSG versus Real Madrid.
Yeah, and that's the two biggest teams in the world.
Yeah, and it's still COVID, so there are barely any seats. Yeah. And it was actually raining. It was like pouring, and it was like $400 for the ticket.
I think Germany is the one that has really cheap tickets.
They are, but all the cities I was in didn't have a game because I almost went to one in I forget the name of the city.
If you were in Berlin, it would have.
No, they were talking about inviting me down to another place, but I already had a ticket to go to Greece, pretty much. Like I met people from. I'm not gonna butcher it because I'll be wrong. Is it Leipzig? Yeah, maybe. Is that
a big team? RB Leipzig, the Red Bull team.
Yeah. I think that's in Germany, yeah. So
nice
people invited me down there, but I already had a ticket to Greece, so
that would have been a good one.
I don't know who they were playing, but
doesn't matter. They're entertaining. They're good.
So
we don't need to talk about soccer. It's okay.
No, I mean I did say when I was in England to all my buddies that I met there, they're like, I have a friend back home who's huge into the whole football thing, and I was like, I'll probably come back to London at some point with this man and go to a Chelsea game. So that's what I'm holding out for. Is I'm letting my first real soccer game, aka football, in that kind of league, Champions League, be with that guy right there. It's special. So that's why I didn't go to any soccer games.
I'll take it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think it's lying. I'll take it. That would be the dangerous part of when I go to Europe, because obviously it's not cheap to go all around Europe, 20 countries. But you said you found country was it, like Spain maybe, that was like you could eat for $1, something, spend 10 cents on some things.
Yeah, so it depends. Like if you're in the city center where the tourists are, it's going to be pretty much as expensive as, or if not more, than we pay here at home. But if you get outside the city center or like outside of those major cities, right? It's like Barcelona, you go to Valencia, and we can get like food for $3, $2, or drinks for cheaper. And Greece, you brought that up, Noah, super cheap, especially like on the islands, getting these euros for like $1. Istanbul, we found a place outside of the city center, and we were able to get these kebabs for 25 cents. and they're delicious too. But inside the city center, they're like $10, or if not more, a little less. So, I ate pretty cheap. I cooked a lot myself. I slept for free most of the part. I did do some hostels, which are fun to do, and
they're fairly cheap.
Yeah, like most of them were like 10 to $15 a night, and you get to meet a lot of other solo travelers from all over the world, and it's honestly very fun. And so I kind of did a bit of both. I hung out with a lot of locals, and then did a lot of traveling with other solo travelers, and good mix. But flights are also dirt cheap. I mean, the cheapest flight I got was like $4.50. I'm not even kidding.
That's $4.50.
Yeah,
by the way.
$4.50
For flight.
The average I'd say is like 20 that I had. So I'd get like a $23 ticket, a $17 ticket, a $18 ticket just to fly places. Bus tickets were like $6.
Look at his face right
Yeah.
now. Once he realized it was $4.50, he freaked out.
Yeah. I think that was like, I forget which one that was, but I think it was like my flight from Budapest to Milan, Italy, like Budapest, Hungary to Milan. It's like, $4.50.
Also, if you think about it, like, it's much smaller, a lot more compact.
Yeah.
So the flights, you're not actually going that far.
Sure.
Like, what's the longest flight?
The longest flight I had was...
It takes less, like, what? It's a 3-hour flight from here to Florida. And that's like,
Yeah,
everyone's like,
3.5
oh, that's such a
probably.
long flight, everything.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Well, like, if you fly to Seattle, that's like a 5.5, 6 hour flight, I think, maybe. I forget. But,
you've done it.
I think when I flew from Prague, Czech Republic to Ireland, which that's a big span because Prague is close to Eastern Europe, Central Europe span. That was like, I don't know, maybe 4 hours. Yeah. Maybe the only other flight that would have been just as long was my flight from Lisbon, Portugal up to Berlin, Germany. And that's, I think that was like 4 hours too. But even within then, that's a time change. That's going an hour forward. So I don't know. Kind of forget. A lot of times I just took buses for like $6 from city to city, or trains for like $10, and that's really nice because you can like sprawl out and sleep on them. I took night trains, slept for free on night trains, airport floors. That was nice. So, yeah.
I would have to make sure I go during off season of soccer. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to like find some job before I can finally find money to get home.
Yeah, I traveled for pretty cheap, so I'm back home currently looking for a job and
try to just like mooch off people like, hey, do you have season tickets? Can I go with you?
So you probably could do that. You make friends. They took like there are a bunch of places.
I'd gladly sit nosebleeds in any stadium in Europe.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah,
that's honestly better at that point. You get the whole view. I want the view of everything.
Yeah,
there's some nice stadiums out in Europe.
I walked by a ton.
Not England.
They're
boring.
They're beautiful. Like one was in Milan Stadium, although they're making a new one.
San Siro, most historic stadium of all time.
That's pretty. The one in where was that? I think in Lisbon, Portugal. I think
green.
There's.
Is it green?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very pretty as well.
Very nice one.
Yeah.
You've seen it on GeoGuessr before.
I have, yeah. We need to play GeoGuessr.
We do. Actually, I don't want to because then he'll just destroy me now.
It could be places I didn't go everywhere.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I didn't do all the touristy things. Like, I didn't go up the Eiffel Tower. I didn't, that's like $40. And I was like, I'm cool with just seeing it and then going and hang out with locals at this pub and,
I've always heard the Eiffel Tower isn't everything that it's supposed to be.
To be fair, Paris is kind of like Paris. We always hear about city love, city lights. Everyone loves it. I'll give it this: Paris is very beautiful, but it's also like just another big city, right? And so you'll have millions of people, and everyone has a different experience. It's like some people love the Eiffel Tower. Most people I met don't care that much.
Is it kind of like the LA of Europe?
I'd say so. To me, LA is very overrated, and I will say dirty level wise, yeah, it's the same. There's cigarettes all over the floor in Paris. Literally everyone smokes every second of the day, and either that they have a cigarette in one hand and a baguette in the other, and they're like
ripping darts, getting carbs,
pretty much. And like I'd love to say that's a what's that called? Stereotype.
Yep.
Yeah, stereotype. But just the amount of people that smoke there, it's crazy. They're like, "Oh, do you want to take a smoke break?" And I'm like, "No, I don't smoke, but I'll stand there with you.
I'll eat a baguette
and just
You
talk.
wanna
I'll eat a
rip off a piece?
baguette, you know." So, like, I love Paris, but everyone else I met there that was traveling, they're like, "Oh, I don't." So I still say go because it's a big city, has a bunch. I'd say get on the outer rim of the city, and there it's a lot more Parisian. So you have those terraces, people are drinking wine and chilling. Inside the city center, you're gonna get scammed, or people are gonna try and scam you like crazy. And I did learn in the rest of Europe, just act like you're French whenever someone walks up to you trying to sell you drugs or a bracelet or whatnot. Just say no merci, and they'll leave you alone. If you say that in English, your American accent, they're gonna keep trying, and then keep trying, offer you free samples, and it gets annoying. So, pro tip: act French when you travel, and the people will leave you alone.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you see the Mona Lisa while you were there? Okay. So now that we're talking on the overrated thing, let's hear about the Mona Lisa.
It's so small. It's tiny, man. Like, it's famous. It's very cool. But I kind of chuckled because in the Louvre, which is that pyramid that most people have probably seen, it's there. It's in there. That place is massive. If you go to Paris, highly recommend it. They have a ton of stuff there. However, for the Mona Lisa side of it, you walk into this big room, and like it's massive room, and there's a wall in the middle of it that has Mona Lisa on it, and there's like a line pretty much that goes through a metal bracket, like bigger than any ride at an amusement park, with people waiting to get up to be like 10 feet away from it to take a picture with no one in front, right? And no one's moving in that line. It's packed. And, there's Mona Lisa, and then you turn around, and this entire wall, like, this place is massive. The entire wall is covered with one single painting. It's this ginormous painting of, like, what looks like The Last Dinner, but it's not that painting, but it's very similar. And that's a masterpiece. It's huge. It's massive, and no one cares. No one's looking at it. No one's taking a picture. Turn around, there's, like, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people waiting in line to get this picture with a tiny little painting. And I get it's the Mona Lisa and it's cool.
Yeah,
and
you can now say, I've seen Mona Lisa.
Yeah, like I can check that box. And I walked around. I didn't wait in line. I walked around that line because you could see it from the side angles where no one was. And I was like, oh, that's cool. On to the next room. And like I definitely think if I had a more of art background, I would have been a lot more appreciative. And, I realized that. But it is a little bit underwhelming when you go in there expecting like the Mona Lisa, and then it's just this tiny little thing, and you get cramped, and everyone's yelling. And
Drew, how would have went nuts?
You say Tyler?
How the art teacher at Wilmington?
Oh, how Shunk? All right, first off, never say that name on this podcast. I don't even care if you listen to this. Somehow find this podcast. Go away.
He was great.
You got an art teacher at Wilmington?
No, it was a kindergarten art teacher. We had to do all these stupid little kindergarten art projects, ripping up pieces of paper and gluing them back on. And it was the dumbest thing ever.
I don't remember that, but I feel like
it was so stupid.
Yeah?
I
hated it.
Never felt like I was like wasting a college class more in my life.
Oh, so this was in college?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were talking about you were in kindergarten.
No, that's what he made. He did kindergarten projects.
Oh. That's
stupidest thing ever.
No, that's funny. I mean, I'll give this. It's a very pretty painting. It's like I've seen the Mona Lisa. That's very cool.
You've seen the Mona Lisa.
Okay. Sorry, I'm back.
Okay.
I was trying to get my dinner out. All right. No, I don't have anything. I'm good. I mean, we could talk about this for hours. I would love to hear more. So, but one thing.
All right. Well,
no, sorry. Austria. So I'm a big F1 guy. They just had a race in Austria that where the track is. It's like literally just like a track, and like just the mountains. The view is incredible. Can you confirm? Like is that all Austria is? Just like mountain, like
the whole west side of Austria. Yeah, so that's the Alps,
sure.
Right? So the Alps go up, through Italy into Switzerland, and Austria is connected to Switzerland on that right edge. And Pro tip, if you want to go see the Alps, you can go to Austria, and it's 10 times cheaper than Switzerland because they're just as crazy beautiful, and Switzerland's very expensive. Austria's not. So Noah, for you, go there. It's crazy beautiful. They have all the mountain lakes, these crazy views. Austria is a very cool place. Their schnitzel, in my opinion, is better than Germany's schnitzel.
Hot take.
Actually, not. A lot of Germans agree. It apparently originated from Vienna, but there's a lot of debate on that. Vienna's in Austria, so I don't know. But I loved the one I had in Vienna a lot more than the one I had in Munich. But they were both good. So very beautiful. Also, F1, everyone loves that over there because of that new Netflix show. But I watched the opening one in Ireland, and they're all huge fans. Like, they know every racer, every detail. They were going crazy. That was my first time watching, and I'm like, okay.
I think that would
We'll have an F1 episode.
that would be my only in with like any like European person. I just say yes, I know F1, and I feel like I would get along with like.
Oh, they would talk to you for hours about F1.
It's awesome.
I do owe Noah an F1 little. I have to start getting more into it now because he agreed today to start being a fan of a team in the championship.
QPR, baby.
QPR. I took a wheel of all 24 teams, did a randomizer.
Reading, man.
I think me and Tyler came out the best. I got a team that got just relegated from the Premier League, so they were like just
pretty
not good
good
enough for the Premier League, but now they're back down to this league. And then Tyler got a team that was almost promoted by one game. You got the worst.
No, man, the underdog story. All right.
Yeah.
I was kind of wanting Luton or whatever that is,
name.
just because my last name, and I've been there.
They almost got promoted last year.
So, but I got Reading, and I believe in them, the underdog.
They used to be in the Premier League. They used to be decent.
There's a chance. I believe they're gonna go crazy.
If anyone knows Adam Lafondre back in those days when he was the striker, no.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I owe Noah to start getting into F1 a little bit. I'm going Aston Martin if I do.
Ooh, tough team to get into, but go for it, man.
Yo, Ferrari came back nice this season.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
So I know that. And the Mercedes, and
Red Bull's
half
Red
people
Bull.
love them, half people hate them.
Lewis Hamilton, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where Noah is.
Sorry,
but I think that's all we got for today.
I appreciate it, guys. I
been
was there for 4 months, a little less than 4 months. So a lot of stories. If you have questions, I'm here.
Yeah, and I'll plug it now. Go watch the Unaware podcast. Listen to it.
That is mine.
2 seasons now. 3rd season's in the works.
Yep.
So
3rd season will actually have a lot of the European friends I made on it. So if that's intriguing to you, talk about that culture, that will be coming soon.
Don't plug your own podcast on my podcast. No, I'm just kidding. I've referenced it more than I've referenced our own podcast, probably. Yeah, well, that's Andrew. Get one last look at Noah before we get out of here.
Look at him.
Oh, my goodness. Look how he pulls that off. Woo! All right. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with Alex, the first purchaser of the Hypervision Fast Pass.
Yes.
And we'll be working on this coming weekend. You might see a vlog.
Ooh.
We might film a podcast while we're out somewhere.
Whoa! That's
Are
crazy.
we going to film in person?
A little vlog?
See you in 2 weeks. We'll figure it out.
Oh. Don't get me...
Either way, that's the Hypervision podcast for this week.
All right. Andrew, thank you for coming on.
Noah, tell me
No, I was going to say, just thank Andrew for coming on. Definitely have to have him on again to talk about other stuff for sure. But yeah, so that's all I got. I'm excited for the next couple weeks. So
Should be good.
All right. Peace out.
We'll see you.